I wanted to do a video for the disappearance of Christopher Sanders. I thought it might allow all of you to better visualize what we were trying to explain in the interview. I'm guessing many of you have already gone to Google Maps and Google Street View to try to look at it for yourself, but I thought this diagram might be helpful as well. We are looking, of course, at a Google satellite view of the RV park. This is where Christopher's trailer was, and it was down here on the corner. I'm using this pen to show it right here. This is now I'm not saying that that is his trailer. I think that this is a satellite view from like 2019, well after he disappeared. However, you can go back if you have the Google Pro version, the actual downloadable map program, which I have, but I didn't want to use it for this. It's a little more complicated to use, but you can go back with the historical imagery to show what this RV park would have looked like in past years. But this is just regular, the Google Maps that you would get to through google.com. But this parking spot right here was right here on the corner. That's what his mother Sandy said. This is where his trailer was. And then what she also said was that Matthews, it was the way she understood it, right next to it. So I took this to mean the one right to the east. So once again, that's north, that's south, that's west, that's east. So Christopher's trailer is here. Sandy says that she believes that Matthew's trailer, the guy who saw Chris walk off, his trailer was right here. And her understanding is most of, if not all of these trailers in this RV park have to do something with the oil drilling business in West Texas. I mean, if you look at it, if you do a street view, you're going to see it's very, 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 very plain. It's like a parking lot that was converted so these trailers could be here. As you can see, there's no trees and nothing else. Not what you usually think of, I guess, when you think of an RV park like for vacationers. It is believed, or I believe, that most of these trailers you see here are for people who are working in this area from out of town, once again, mainly in the oil drilling business. So Chris's trailer was right here. You can see I-20. You can see the blue and white lettering right here with the I-20 going west to east. And, excuse me, just hit the tripod. So what Matthew says he saw is that he saw Chris leave his trailer, go right here. There is a fence on the perimeter of this trailer park. Saw him go over the fence and walk out to I-20. Now, what's important to understand there is that there is no fence between what they call a frontage road, this West 21st Street, and I-20. Usually with frontage roads, there is a fence, but there is no fence. There's a fence like down here, but once we get to right here, there's no fence between this road and the interstate because there's an exit right here. So they have to stop the fence at some point. Well, they stopped it over here. So once Chris got over this fence, he had a clear walk right to the interstate. He didn't have to go over another fence to get to I-20. So you can see that here. You can't see that there's not a fence there, but you can go in Street View and do that. Maybe I can try to do that and just show you that right quick. So there's the RV park right here. This is the area where it was the Street View from. Not sure. It says June, down here it says June 2019. So almost 2 years after Chris disappeared. But there's this trailer right in the position where Chris's would have been. You can see this very tiny fence right here that anybody who is decent in decent physical condition could get over this fence. Here's this frontage road, also known as West 21st Street. And there's I-20 right there. Just walk right through the grass, right to I-20. Now, if you look way down here, there is a fence, and it stops right there between this street and the highway. So this is the fence that he would have jumped over. Now, what's a little confusing to me, just the first part that catches my attention, is that he didn't have to go over this fence. There was no reason that Chris, if he was intending to walk east, had to go over this fence. Why? Because there is an intersection. We'll go right down this direction. Keep going, and going, and going, and going. Right here, that's the edge of the RV park, and there's an intersection right here. So you didn't have to go over the fence. All you had to do is walk east to here and walk right out onto the road. And then onto the highway. So that's a little confusing. Let me go back to the Google view and I'll show you what I mean. So we were just at this intersection. So Matthew's saying he jumped over the fence, went onto I-20. Well, if he was going to go this direction, why bother even jumping over the fence? Why not just walk the whole way down here, going the direction he was seemingly going to go anyway, and just go right out through the intersection? Granted, I guess me being 49 years old, I would take the easy way out and just go to this intersection instead of trying to jump over the fence. So, I don't know. Maybe Chris was looking to avoid anybody else seeing him walking past any of these other trailers. Maybe his cousin Cody's trailer was down there. His Uncle Harold's was down there. I don't know. And I'm not sure Sandy knows. But Matthew says right by where the trailer is, he jumped over the fence and went out onto I-20. Now, what Matthew also says is that he was walking down I-20 East, and then he went up over the rise, and he disappeared. Well, what he means by that is there is this exit, and you know how a lot of times you're on a highway, and you come to an exit, and the highway rises because there's usually a road that goes over the highway, and that makes it easier to engineer it. So this is what I believe Matthew meant, that he was watching Chris walk away, and then he got up here, and that would be about, I'm going to say about 900 feet, maybe from the RV park to the rise up here. Not quite, quarter of a mile, 1,320 feet, so not even a quarter mile, I don't know how that all works out, like 1/5 of a mile or something. But so not too far to see. And Chris just walked right up over this interchange. And that was the last that he saw of him. I'm not saying that didn't happen. In fact, looking at this diagram, it very well could have. Matthew's here. Chris is there. He goes out. Matthew's and the truck's there. It's blaring. Remember, the alarm was going off. And let me just maybe blow this up or zoom in just a little bit more. Matthew's over here somewhere. Chris is over here. Chris goes right out to the highway and starts walking this way. And Matthew's wondering, what the heck is going on with this guy? And there goes the highway. And it goes up over the interchange. Once again, there was a rise in it. And maybe I can show that using Street View. And you can see how it rises in the distance. Here it goes up. You can tell that it goes up, up, up. And then down the other side. Okay. So there you go. There's the on-ramp. So that, I think, is what, let me zoom this back out. So that is what we were trying to explain, what Sandy was explaining in the interview. Now we have to get to the other part of this, and that is Matthew says that Chris left at 9:30. Cody called him at 11:51. That's 2 hours and 20 minutes later. Average person walks 3 miles to 4 miles an hour. Let's just go on the high side. Maybe not. Let's go on the low side. 3 miles an hour. So he was going 2 hours at least, so that's 6 miles. And then an additional 20 minutes. So 3 miles an hour is 1 mile every 20 minutes. So if we are to believe that Chris was walking that whole time, that means he would have been at least probably 7 miles away from where he started. Well, what does that mean? That means it's a lot of area to cover. Approximately here, let's just do it this way. Measure distance. So, here's Monaghan's. This right here is where the RV park approximately is. And we start going out here 7 miles. I mean, that's 5 miles right there. 6. That's 7 miles right there. 7 miles. That is a large, large area. So, anywhere in this area. And if we believe he's headed east, then anything, that would be the minimum distance, or, where somebody should be looking. In this area, it's all, like I said, around 7 miles. Let's see if I can, right in here, east. And you got the Stanhill State Park. I'm trying to keep this radius right here. I mean, as you can see, it's a huge area. Now, what are the pluses and minuses of this? Well, on the plus side, you can tell there aren't any forests or anything like that. No big wilderness where everybody, if you put a group together, you'd really have to be, get your saws out and everything else, or chainsaws, to work your way through some wilderness to try to track down where Chris might have gone, if we believe that he walked away and did not get picked up by anybody, anything like that. That's one of the positives. You can look at this. It's very barren. I mean, really, you look down at this and it almost looks like you're looking down on the moon. No offense to you West Texas residents, but it's very stark looking. A lot of grays and tans and whites. No green and no blue either. No water, not a lot of trees. So that would make, if somebody was going to do a search, at least a little bit easier. Now, on the negative side, it is a vast area, and we don't know what direction Christopher went. Being that Harold was out on I-20 and did not see him, it's perfectly reasonable to believe that Chris might have left the highway. Maybe he took one of these other side roads. You can see some other roads that are on there. Maybe he went over here and then went south or something. Or he, could have gone, over in this alternate 20, business 20. We just don't know. But if I were to start doing a search, it'd probably start around the 7 mile mark over here and out. That makes sense to me. That makes sense. Now, probably some of you right about now are probably thinking about the Crystal Morrison disappearance, which was resolved earlier this year. Her remains were found in December. They were identified at the beginning of this year, and it turned out that she had not strayed more than a quarter mile from where she was last seen. Now, what, of course, hampered search efforts was that there were trees and woods in the area. In addition, there was private property where the guy or woman did not allow them to go on the property to search back at the time when they were looking for Crystal, and that's what kept Herb from being found for all 7 years. And it was just luck that she was found she was found by some guys doing some surveying for the state because they were going to be putting in widening a road or something. Now with this, although there are similarities, I think, to Crystal Morrison's disappearance in that it seems like she just walked away, and it seems that Chris did as well. I don't know if we have some of the other issues with Crystal being in bad health. There's no proof that Christopher was suffering from anything. But on the other hand, we don't know if he was keeping up on his bipolar medication. And I guess he had high blood pressure as well. I don't know how those things would have affected him had he not been taking them. I think that another point to think about is what Matthew was saying about, once again, if you believe Matthew, I get the feeling that there are going to be people who even doubt the story, and you're perfectly willing to do that. Be willing to do that. I'm not saying it makes total sense. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. But in a situation like this, it does seem strange that a guy would just stand there and let another guy walk off while the guy's truck's blaring and not say to the guy, what are you doing? Are you not going to shut that thing off and leave the door open? It just doesn't sound like your everyday occurrence out there. I think all of us, if we're by somebody and they leave their car door open, walk away from it, and the car alarm's going off, I'd be like, sir, ma'am, what are you doing? Matthew didn't do that for whatever reason. So I understand why there's going to be people that might say, I don't know, that story makes total sense. But if we were to believe Matthew, it does seem like Chris was in a little bit of a mood, going back and forth between, let me get rid of this, between his truck and his trailer before leaving. Now, what was he looking for? What was he doing? I don't know. Maybe some people might portray it as some sort of manic behavior, going back and forth, back and forth. And then, on top of everything else, leaving his truck door open, which he locked his trailer but left his truck door open. Interesting. So, but that's, is there anything else that I want to say about this? I guess I think that probably for also some of you that you may think of Tom Brown's disappearance, and eventually his remains being found 12 miles away. A lot of people do not believe, of course, that he walked that whole way. However, in this case, if we're to believe Matthew and we believe Cody, and Cody called him, and it was 2 hours, 20 minutes later, and Christopher was still walking, he would be several miles away. Just like Tom's remains ended up being several miles away, being found several miles away from his car. But I just wanted to do that for you, explain that a little bit. It sounds to me like not any searches were done. But I think they should be. It's going to be difficult. Who owns all this land out in this area, all these miles away? You're going to need a decent amount of people to do this. But being that it hasn't been done, somebody should at least think about it. It's been 2.5 years now, even more than that. But it's going to be a lot of area to cover. But if it were me, I would start to the east of town at the 7-mile mark and go out from there. So that was this video I wanted to do to make, maybe it'll help you better understand what we were trying to explain during the interview.